This is when somebody
audience microphone. Yeah.
Okay.
Om Gananam Tva Ganapatin Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamasravastamam Yashtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Ana Shrunvannutibhisi Dasadanam Om Shri Mahaganadhipataye Namah Om Vrishabham Charshaninam Vishwarupamadabhyam Bruhaskatim Varenyam Om Tadvishno Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suraya Divi Vachakshuratatam Om Shrim Hrim Mahalakshmyai Namah Om Shlim Hrim Jyotirbrahmaya Namah. Can everybody say after me Hare Ram Krishna 3 times? Om Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna. Okay, so 1 month back, when I taught last, I said from the next class we will start doing Parasara, we will start doing Brahat Parasara Hara Shastram. We will spend half the class doing examples like we always do, and half the class going through the text and interpreting it. If there are any confusions possible, then reasoning out different interpretations, etc. So we wanted to do that. And then once I did it, then it was decided that I will take a break. So basically, Parasara wanted his text to be studied by us starting from the day before Guru Purnima rather than 1 month back. Today is the day before Guru Purnima and also a Chaturdashi day. Chaturdashi is an auspicious day for Shiva, so it is very appropriate that we will start today. Yes. Oh, Nakshatra Sukta, yes. So we have to do Sadhupishad.
We are reading all the names of this part.
I don't know. Okay, so we did Satapishar, Dhanishthar, Pravishtha. We'll do the Satapishad Nakshatra. It looks like Varna is the role of this Nakshatra as per the Vedic verse here. So this is a mantra for the Satapishad Nakshatra, which is ruled by Varna. So it is a mantra for Varna as the ruler of the Satapishad Nakshatra. Om Kshatrasya Raja Varunodhiraja Nakshatranam Sadabhishagvatishthah Tau Devebhyah Krunuto Dirghamayu Shatam Sahasrabheshajani Dhattah Yajnanno Raja Varuna Upayatu Tanno Vishve Abhisamyantu Devah Tanno Nakshatram Sadabhishagdushanam Dirghamayu Pratiradheshajani. So this is a mantra for Varuna as the ruler of the Satapishad Nakshatra. It is also referring to Vasishtha as Satapishad being Vasishtha among all the nakshatras, etc.
Raha is
Guru. Oh, good, very good.
That is actually coming
That is what?
Guru.
Oh, yeah. So, as far as the Nakshatra Suktam is concerned, we are on Satapishad today. And as far as the Navagraha Suktam is concerned, apparently we are on Brahaspati. So we will do the mantra for Brahaspati. Okay. This is a Veda mantra for Brahaspati. Actually, there is a Gayatri mantra as well as this mantra, I believe, is a Brahati. Is in Brahati Chanda, Jagati, I forget. This is not a Gayatri mantra for Brahaspati. This is more for karma, basically. This is more for money, etc. Jupiter can give money also. If you see the mantra, it says Dravinam Dehi Chitram, basically give me money. So this is a mantra for that aspect of Brihaspati. The other mantra which just extols Brihaspati as the intelligence of the universe, so that he increases our intelligence. That is what we do at the beginning of the class. I'll do that also. Om Vrishabham Chashaninam Vishwarupamadaabhyam Brihaspatim Varenyam. So this is the Gayatri mantra for Brihaspati. The other Veda mantra, which is normally done when you do Brihaspati Homam or Navagraha Homam, is Om Brihaspate Atiyadharyo Arha Jumad Vibhati Kratu Majjaneshu Yadvida Yacchavasatta Prajata Dasma Sudravinam Dehi Chitram. Okay. Actually, I'll read one more thing, because we are starting the reading of our Prahar Parasara Hora Shastram today. I'll do a special prayer for Ganesha to make sure that there are no vignas and we do a good job of interpreting Parasara and all of us benefit from the teachings of Parasara directly. Om, this is Ganapati Atharvashtam. It will just take a couple of minutes. Om Namaste Ganapataye Tvameva Pratyaksham Tattvamasi Tvameva Kevalam Kartasi Tvameva Kevalam Dhartasi Tvameva Kevalam Hattasi Tvameva Sarvam Khalvidam Brahmasi Tvam Sakshadatmasi Nityam Ratam Vachmi Satyam Vachmi Avatvam Mam Avavaktaram Avasrotaram Avadataram Avadhataram Avanuchanam Avasishyam Avapaschattat Avapurastat Avottarattat Avadakshinattat Avachodhvattat Avadharattat Sarvatomam Pahi Pahi Samantat Tvam Vangmayastvam Chinmayah Tvamanandamayastvam Brahmamayah Tvam Satchidanandadvitiyosi Tvam Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvam Jnanamayo Vijnanamayosi Sarvam Jagadidam Tvatto Jayate Sarvam Jagadidam Tvattas Tisthati Sarvam Jagadidam Tvayilayameshyati Sarvam Jagadidam Tvayi Pratyeti Tvam Bhumirapo Nalo Nilo Nabha Tvam Chatvari Vakpadani Tvam Gunatrayatitah Tvam Avasthatrayatitah Tvam Dehatrayatitah Tvam Kalatrayatitah Tvam Mooladharasthitosi Nityam Tvam Shaktitrayatmakah Tvam Yogino Dhyayanti Nityam Tvam Brahma Tvam Vishnu Tvam Rudra Tvam Agni Tvam Vayu Tvam Surya Tvam Chandramasvaram Brahma Bhuvassuvarom Ganadim Purvamuchyarya Varnadim Sadanantaram Anuswarah Paratarah Abhendulasitam Tarena Ruddham Etattava Manuswarupam Gakarah Purvarupam Akaro Madhyama Rupam Anuswarasya Rupam Binduruttara Rupam Nadah Sandhanam Sanghita Sandhi Saisha Ganesha Vidya Ganaka Rishi Mithirgayatri Chandah Ganapatir Devata Om Gam Ganapataye Namah Yekadantaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Dantis Prachodayat Ekadantam Chadurhastam Pachamankusadharinam Radam Javaradam Hastayad Vibhranam Musakadhvajam Raktam Lambodaram Shurpakannakam Raktavasasam Raktagandhanuliptangam Raktapushpai Supujitam Bhaktanukampinam Devam Jagatkaranamachyutam Avirbhutancha Srushyadau Prakrute Purushat Param Yevam Jhayati Yo Nityam Sayogi Yoginam Varah Namo Vratapataye Namo Ganapataye Namah Kramathapataye Namaste Stulambodharaya Ikadantaya Vighnanashine Sivasutaya Vardamurtaye Namah Om Sri Mahaganadhipataye Namah. Okay, we will start Parasara. We will spend an hour on that, and then we will do some examples. Let me open. in the first class, basically, I want to start with the chapter on Argala. Those of you who read Durga Saptasati, for example, you know that before reading Chandi Patham, there are 3 stotras that are supposed to be read. Kilakam, Argala, Kavacham, Argala and Kilakam for the Devi. There are 3 stotras. And if you see the rishis for the stotras, for Kavacham the rishi is Brahma, for Argala the rishi is Vishnu, and for Kilakam the rishi is Shiva. So basically, Kavacha and Argala and Kilaka, you can understand what exactly they mean by associating with Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Basically, I want to get Vishnu's energy and start with the chapter on Argala to begin with. I think it is this chapter. Okay. Those of you who have the text with you, this is basically chapter 31. I believe in Santanam's version, not in Sarma's version. In Sarma's version, it says 2 chapters ahead. So actually, from the next class, if you have BPHS, you can basically get into the class and you can follow the shlokas as I read them from the next class. And after I basically finish this chapter, I will decide what order I want to do it, and then maybe we can start from the first bhava, or probably a better thing would be to do the chapters at the end on remedial measures. There are certain doshas, for example, if somebody is born on a Sankranti day or Amavasya day, there are certain doshas that can override everything in the chart. So when you see practical charts, those become very important. We haven't really talked about those doshas. So we can do those doshas and the remedial measures that Parashara himself mentioned. So probably I was thinking that we can do those first and then start going through the beginning chapters like various bhavas, padas, etc. Because we have a reasonable grounding in those. We will verify our understanding by reading Parashara closely, but the last chapters are something that we haven't touched, so that it may be useful. So I will decide by the next class and do it. But for this class, for the reason I said, I wanted to start with this particular chapter on Argala. Okay, so I will just read the slokas and then I will tell you the meaning. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. So this is the chapter on Argala, Atha Argaladhyaya, the 31st chapter. Bhagavan Yargala Prokta Subhada Bhavatadhuna Tamaham Shrotumichhami Salakshana Mune. He's saying, oh God, he's basically addressing Parashara as Lord. Basically, this is said by Maitreya. Oh Lord, whatever Argala was said, which gives great results. Prokta means has been said. Subhada means one that gives very important results, good results. Bhavata means by you. Adhana means now. Tam aham. Tam means that. Aham means I. Shrotum means, Shrotum ichhami means want to listen. Salakshana phalam mune. So what are the results of it? I want to understand the thing that Argala which was mentioned by you. O Muni, O sage, please explain me the results of Argala. Then Parashara is saying, Maitreya Sargala nama yaya bhava phalam draham thiram kheta phalam chasyat sadhuna kachate maya. So he's saying, Maitreya, that thing called Argala, by which the results of various houses become drudha. He says, yaya means by which, bhava phalam means the results of the houses. Dridham means, what does dridham mean? Pakka, yeah, to use the word pakka, basically strong, unmovable. So Argala is that which basically causes stability or makes the result solid. It basically results in certain solid results. Whereas when we talk about aspects, etc., he doesn't use this word dridha. He only says the planet has an influence. But here he uses the word dridham. So Argala basically results in very solid results corresponding to the houses. Not only houses, he says, thiram kheta phalam chasyat. So he's saying even the results of planets themselves, not just houses. The results of planets themselves, thiram syat means it will become thira. Thira means fixed. Again, he is using words like dodha and thira, which means very fixed and very rigid. So basically there is certain thing rigid about argala. When there is an argala, when it is strong, it just gives the result. That's what Parasara is hinting here. Thiram ketaphalam chasya sadhuna kachyate maya. Sa means that, adhuna means now, kachyate means will be said, maya, by me. So I will explain to you how it works.
So it is negative or positive?
He hasn't really said. But Maitreya, when he asked, he said, Subhadha, the one that gives great results, auspicious results. So Maitreya seems to imply that it only gives good results. But Parasara has not really said good or bad so far. He only said the results become rigid because of argala. And I will explain to you. So second sloka is over. What?
We are still second sloka, sir.
Yeah. Now the third sloka. Don't expect Parasara to lay it down very clearly, even if you finish all the slokas. He will only leave it hanging in the air. Because he doesn't want to spoon feed it. He wants to write it in such a way that intelligent people will understand it. People who are destined to understand it will understand. And people who don't deserve the knowledge will not get it. That is Parasara style. Unfortunately, unlike the style of current generation of authors. So the third sloka is Chatuthe dhane labhe grahe gneyag bhargala sadbadhaka kramat kheta vyoma rishphatrutiyagah. So what he is saying is Chatuthe in the fourth, cha and dhane. Dhane means second, dhanasthanam means the house of wealth. Second, labhe, what is the labhasthanam gains? 11th. So he used the word cha, which means this and this and this. So fourth and second and 11th, grahe, kneya targala. Grahe means in those houses if there is a planet. So Chatuthe dhane labhe grahe means if there is a planet, in case there is a planet, in the fourth or second or 11th. Gneya tadargala. Then it should be understood that should be understood as argala. That means that argala means as argala, gneya means should be understood. So that should be understood as argala. So now, when I don't know exactly how I explained it earlier, but when we thought, we may have said that the second house, fourth house and 11th house have argala on the house. So whether there is a planet or not, we interpret it as though a particular house has argala on a different house. And all planets in that house also have argala on the house, right? That's not what Parasara is saying here. Only planets have argala. Houses do not have argala on houses. According to what Parasara says here, only planets have argala on houses. And on planets also. So argala is on planets as well as houses. But argala is caused only by planets. If the second, fourth and 11th are empty, no argala. No argala on that house.
So he referred to Rasi chart.
Pardon me?
Is he referring to Rasi?
Did he say Rasi chart? He didn't say. So, when he doesn't say something, we are free to interpret. And my interpretation is, it applies to Navamsa, it applies to Dasamsa, it applies to any chart where there are signs and planets. Where there are signs and planets in signs. Any entity that you construct where there are 12 signs and planets occupying one of the 12 signs. Okay. And he is saying, in the second, fourth and 11th houses, if there are planets, then you should understand it as argala. Basically, those planets will cause argala. Tad badhakah kramat theta vyoma rishpha trutiyagah. Which means tad badhakah. That means that. Badhaka means obstructors, causing problem, causing obstruction. So, for those, the ones who cause obstruction, who stop it, are kramat, in the respective order, kheta, planets, vyoma rishpha trutiyagah. Vyoma means 10th house. Vyoma literally means, what does vyoma literally mean? Anybody knows vyoma? You must know. It's a very standard word, vyoma. Vyomagami means astronaut, huh? Yeah, flight, good. Vyoma means basically akasham. Vyoma means akasham. So, if you look at the 10th house, it is basically at the middle of the sky, basically. In English, it's called mid-heaven. In Western astrology, the 10th house is called mid-heaven. And Parasara often refers to it as Vyoma, Vyomasthana, the Akashasthana, basically. The heaven. So basically, the work that you do is the heaven while you are still living in the world. It's where your heaven is. So, Vyoma. So he said Kramat means respectively. So for the 4th house, Vyoma. The 10th house is the is the obstruction. Okay, and then for 11th house it is Rishpa. Sorry, second house Dhana. It is Rishpa. Rishpa means usually 12th house, last. And then Tritiya. For Labha he has Tritiya. And he has Ga hai then. Gama Rishpa Tritiya Ga. Ga means the one who goes into it. Gacha. It comes from the Gam Dhatu or Gacha, which means to go. So who have gone into that house? So again he's not talking to the houses. He's talking to planets who are occupying that house. So if there is no planet in those houses, in those Bhadgasthana, there is no obstruction to the Argala. If there are planets, they cause obstruction to the Argala. Okay? Yeah. 10th house is for the 4th house, 12th house for the 2nd house, and 3rd house for the 11th house. These are the definitions given by Parasara. These are the Bhadgasthanas for those Argalas.
Actually, the fact that it's called the Bhadrakasa there is just negating of the whole thing, because they actually might break even a problem.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now he is putting a further qualification of the Bhadaka. He has not put these qualifications on the Argala Grahas, but on Bhadaka Grahas he is putting. What is he saying? Nirbala nyona sankhyava Bhadaka naiva sammatah. It means Nirbala, which means weak, devoid of strength. Nyona sankhya means 0 in number. Nyuna literally means 0 in number, or you could even say Nyuna also means less. So Nyuna sankhya means less in number. Va means R. He is not saying R here. Bhadaka naiva sammata. Then, if the Bhadakas are either devoid of strength or if they are less in number, then Bhadaka naiva sammata. Then they are not accepted as Bhadakas. Those Bhadakas are not accepted. They don't mean anything. So, for a planet who is obstructing an Argala, for it to obstruct it considerably well, or even for it to obstruct it, for it to be considered as an obstructor of the Argala, it has to be strong and
also
there have to be more planets. There have to be not just a few planets, more planets.
But what does he mean more planets for each?
He didn't explain. So you can guess that if Bhadaka planets are more than the Argala planets, then they cause Bhadha. Otherwise, it's like there are 10 people who are trying to get a project done. There are just 2 people who go and say, oh no, this project is not good, let's stop it. They will be kicked out. They don't even matter. So approximately something like that.
Is it more or it's stronger?
He is saying both. Whether if they are weak, they don't matter. Or if they are fewer in number, they don't matter. So basically the momentum is with the Argala Graha. The Bhadakas who are trying to obstruct it, they have to be more in number and also they have to be not weak. Then only they can go and stop it. Because some people want to do something. If you want to go and spoil it, you better be strong, have the energy to spoil it. Because causing something is easier. But obstructing that needs more energy. You really need to be more focused. Now, so he says, Nirbala Nyura Sankhya Bhadaka Naiva Sammata, and then Tritiye Vyadhika Papa Yatra Maitreya Bhadakaha. Tatrapi Chargala Agneya. I will read the next sloka because he is saying a sentence which crosses the 4th and 5th verses. Tritiye Vyadhika Papa Yatra Maitreya Bhadakaha Tatrapi Chargala Agneya Viparita Dvijottama. So he says, if in the 3rd house, Vyadhika Papa, if there are lot of, again, what does he mean by Adhika? Many, we don't know. He says if there are many, he will qualify later, just be patient. If there are many Papa means malefic planets. Until now he hasn't talked about Subha Papa. So Subhagraha can also be Bhadaka. Papa Graha can also cause Argala in a house. So he hasn't qualified Subha or Papa until now. But now he is saying, in the 3rd house, if there are many malefic planets, Yatra Maitreya Bhadaka, where in the 3rd house there are many malefic planets acting as Bhadaka, O Maitreya, Tatrapi, even there, Chargala Gneya, even there also Argala Gneya, Viparita Dvijottama. Then also it should be actually understood as Argala. it is understood as, it is worthy of being understood as Argala. That is what Meya means. Viparita Jyottama. But it is a Viparita Argala. What does Viparita, the word Viparita mean?
Extreme.
One which has gone from one extreme to another. Just like Viparita Rajyoga, the exact meaning of Viparita means going from one extreme to the, jumping from one end to the other end of the spectrum. So that is what Viparita means. So, what he is suggesting is, they also cause Argala. So, they stop being Bhadakas basically. So, they were Bhadakas and then suddenly they start acting as the promoters. Somebody comes to spoil your project, but suddenly he decides, no, actually this project is good, let me do it. And then he becomes a promoter to your project. So that is what he is hinting at by the use of the word Viparita. Okay? Then, Tatha Vikheta Bhavanam Phalamargalitam Vidu. So like that also, Kheta Bhavanam means of Kheta, of Grahas, of planets, and of houses. Phalam means result, Argalitam, result that has been, Argalita means caused Argala. What is the literal meaning of the word Argala?
Bold.
Yeah. Argala means a bolt with which you close a door. And Argalitam, the exact meaning of the word Argalitam means fastened. Basically you tightened it, you made it rigid, you made it closed basically. So then also the fruits of, the phala means fruits, the results of planets and houses are understood to be fastened basically, to be perfected by these planets. Now he is saying another thing. Panchamam chargala sthanam navamam tadvirodhakrit. He is saying the fifth house is also an Argala. Fifth house is also an Argala sthanam. A house that causes Argala. Navamam tadvirodhakrit. And ninth house causes the obstruction to it. It causes Virodham means enemy basically. It is basically the one that causes enmity to that particular Argala, which means with obstructive.
Interesting. After the signs, the 59th house,
Yeah.
influence this house in favorable way.
Right.
But you're telling me, according to this, the fifth one, Argala is contracted by ninth house.
The fifth house Argala is contracted by the ninth house Argala. That is what Parasara is saying. Now, and actually another thing, as we read more verses, a couple more points will become clear. We have so far been using Argala as, okay, just this planet has Argala, so it gives this result. But that is not how Parasara describes. We will find out a little later. Actually, another difference is coming up from what we have been doing. If you remember, what I probably taught you earlier is basically what I was taught, which is, if Ketu is in a particular house, when you reckon the Argalas on that house, you basically reverse. So, suppose right now Ketu is in Virgo, right? Right now. So, if somebody is born right now, if you make the Rashi chart, if you want to see Argalas on Virgo right now, what will you do? You will count in reverse. And we say Leo causes Argala because it is the second house in reverse. Right? So, if I open the chart. So, on Virgo, Leo causes Argala. And the fourth house counted reverse from Virgo is Gemini. Gemini causes Argala.
Actually, Argala is planet only, not houses.
That's right, but we were saying houses. So, let's say planets. So, Sun causes Argala on Virgo right now. And also, if you count the 11th house in reverse, you end up in Scorpio. If there is any planet in Scorpio, he will cause Argala on Virgo. So, this is how we learn. If there is Ketu, then only the exception. And also, the exception applies to the whole sign, basically. But that is not what Parasara is saying. If you read Parasara, the thing is, I want to tell you, all the knowledge that I have given you or the knowledge that I was given is not necessarily accurate. Because this is Kali Yuga, corruptions are galore. There are always a lot of corruptions. And as far as I am concerned, Parasara is the highest authority, nobody else. So if you try to read Parasara and interpret him, if you are confident of your interpretation and if you try it on charts, it is worth adopting. So I will advocate following Parasara rather than what I taught you earlier. Now, what does Parasara teach here? He says, Tamo graha bhava sacha vyatyaya jnayate dvija. So he says, Tamo graha bhava. Tamo graha bhava. The darkness planets. Tamo grahas are darkness planets. Bhava means caused by them. Udbhava. It became Udbhava because of those. It came about because of those. Brought about by Tamograha. Now what are Tamograha? There are two interpretations possible. You can interpret it as shadowy dark planets, basically planets which have no light. So you can say Rahu and Ketu. That is one interpretation of Tamograha. The other interpretation would be all Tamograhas, because Parasara defined. These grahas have Sattva, these grahas have Rajas, Mercury and Venus are Rajasic, Jupiter, Sun and Moon are Sattvic. So you can use that interpretation and say Mars, Saturn, Rahu and Ketu are. Okay? So these are the two possible interpretations. But what is he saying? He is saying if it is brought about by Tamograhas, then Jatyaya Jnayate Dvija. Actually, he is not even saying Argala, which is Argala as well as Badha. He is saying if it is brought about by Tamograhas, then Jatyayat Jnayate. You see Jatyayat here, that's a Sandhi. It's actually Jatyayat plus Jnayate. It becomes Jatyayat Jnayate. Jatyayam means reverse. So Jatyayat means by reverse, in reverse. Jnayate Dvija. It is learned in the reverse way, or learned Brahmin. So what he is saying is, if it is caused by a Tamograha, it is counted in reverse. So my interpretation is, it doesn't apply to Mars and Saturn. By Tamograhas, he is implying only Rahu and Ketu. And he is not specifically saying Ketu. He is saying Tamograha. So definitely he is referring to two planets. Otherwise he would have said Ketu specifically. So it's not just Ketu. It is both Rahu and Ketu. And it does not apply to the sign. It applies only to the Argala or Badha that is brought about by that particular planet. So in other words, in this example, Ketu is in Virgo, but when you talk about the Argala caused by Sun, Sun is not Ketu. The planet causing it should be seen. That should be Rahu or Ketu. So the Virga, if you see the Argalas on Virgo, Jupiter is in the second house, he causes Argala, period. There is no modification because of Ketu being in Virgo. Similarly, Mercury, Saturn and Mars, who are in Cancer, they cause Argala on Virgo, being in the 11th house for me. Again, there is no modification because Ketu is in that house. But if I see Argalas on Libra, for example, if I see the Argalas on Libra, Ketu, when I see which house Ketu is in from it, I don't say he is in the 12th house, but I see he is in the second house from Ketu. So, or you don't have to do that. You can say he is in the 12th house, but 12th house is the Argala Sthana for Rahu and Ketu, not second house. So Argala Sthanas and Badha Sthanas basically are reversed. When you are finding the Argalas or Badhas caused by, brought about by Tamograha, Rahu and Ketu.
That makes more sense, because also they are reverse.
Yeah, they are. It is basically like they are looking in reverse.
Reverse, exactly. Because they also go in the reverse direction. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Now this brings about another question. When you count houses from Rahu, and Ketu, for example, do you count in reverse or you don't? We don't really have an answer. But
logically, I think it doesn't make sense, because the planets that are influencing are the ones that need to decide how they're going to affect the report, not the planet which is in the house.
Right.
That's going to decide how the Argala is going to work. Because Argala is determined by the planets
right,
that are in the house of second, fourth, and 11th.
right.
So I think.
Now what I am saying is, if a planet in the second house, basically, let us say a planet in the second house from any house causes Argala, what does it mean? From the planet, if I see houses, it is the 12th house. So planet is giving to that house. You see what I am saying?
Right.
Similarly, 4th house Argala, what does it mean? If a planet is in the 4th house from a house, from the planet if you see houses, that is the karma sthana. So planet is basically doing some karma relating to that house. Right? So planet is doing some karma, planet is giving something. That is why that house is benefiting from that planet. It is basically being given by that planet. Okay? Now what I am saying is, for Rahu and Ketu, should you count the houses reverse? That is what this is suggesting.
Right.
Because they go backward. They see
Everything backwards.
So if you just count everything backwards for them, for example, where Rahu gives, is the 12th house from Rahu counted in reverse. This is basically the second house from Rahu. So Rahu will cause Argala on the second house from it, which means Rahu should be in the 12th house from that house in order to cause Argala on it. So that is what this seems to be suggesting. But whether we can do it always when we see the houses from planets, because we did talk about houses from planets earlier, the 5th house from Jupiter, the so-and-so house from so-and-so planet. There, when you count the houses from Rahu and Ketu, do you do backwards? That is the question. Okay? This is hinting that that should be done, but I will leave that with you. You can think about it. But at least as far as Argala is concerned, it is clearly saying that you count in reverse. Okay? So whatever you have learnt on Rahu and Ketu's Argala is at loggerheads. with whatever Parasara taught. So it is your choice. You can either go with what Sanjay ji taught me and what I taught you, or what Parasara is unambiguously teaching here. I will leave the choice to you, but my recommendation would be to follow Parasara. He is the source of all genuine knowledge. Okay. So, if you are reckoning the Argala or Badha, it's not specifically said, so it's both. Argala or Badha to Argala being caused by a shadowy planet, Rahu or Ketu, then count in reverse. Now he is talking about the quantity of the Argala, how strong the Argala is. Ekagraha kanistha sa dvigraha madhyama smrita Argala dvyahikotpanna munibhi katsottama. He is talking about the grades of Argala. Ekagraha kanistha sa. If it is caused by one planet, it is kanistha, means very minimal. Vigraha madhyama smrita. If it is caused by two planets, it is called medium, of medium strength, of medium grade. Argala dvyahikotpanna. If Argala is, utpanna means brought about by, caused. Adhika, dvyahika means 3 plus adhika. 3 means 2, dvyahika means more than 2. So dvyahikotpanna, more than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If it is caused by more than 2 planets, munibhi, by rishis, by munis, by sages, katita uttama. It is said to be great, excellent. So, for an Argala to be really maximum, they have to be more than 2 planets. They don't have to be in the same sign. He is not saying Argala caused by planets in the same sign. But all the planets, if you see on a particular house, 2nd, 4th, 11th, if you count all the planets, they all have Argala. He is not distinguishing. So, if there are 3 or 4 planets in these said houses, 2nd, 4th and 11th in the house, then he is saying those planets will give maximum Argala. And what does Argala do? He said it makes the results of the house Rudha. So the results of the house, whatever results the house is supposed to give, those results will become very solid. There may be a flavor based on what the planet's agenda itself is. But what he is saying is the results of the house will be maximum. There are more than 2 planets in the Argala Sthana. Now he is saying Rasito grahataschapi vigneya dvividhargala nirbadhaka sukhalada viphalata sabadhaka. So he is saying from Rashi, Rasito means Rasita, from Rashi. Grahatascha api. Grahataha means from planets, cha and api also. So from Rashis and also from planets, vigneya dvividhargala. Vigneya means well learnt. Vividha Argala means 2 vidhas. 2 kinds of Argala. So when you are talking about Argala on houses as well as planets, there are 2 kinds of Argala that are to be understood. What are those? Nirbadhaka, Sufalada, Viphalata, Sabadhaka. So he is saying, if there is no Badha, Nirbadhaka means without Badha. Sufalada. It gives good results. Su means good. So it gives good results. Viphalata, Sabadhaka. Sabadhaka means with Badha, if there is Badha, then Viphala. Viphala means, it doesn't really mean negative results. It means no result. No result. So it becomes Viphalam. That means Viphalam means useless. So basically useful and useless, approximately saying. Argala that works and Argala that fails. So that is the distinction he is making. Now he is saying, so he is not really saying auspicious, inauspicious. Again, Su doesn't mean auspicious. Su only means good. Good doesn't mean auspicious. So he is saying works or doesn't work. That is the classification he is using. Not auspicious or inauspicious. That depends on the house. If the house wants to give sweetness, an Argala on it, which gives the results fully, will give sweetness. Right? Now he is saying, Yatra rasau sthitah kesas tasya pakantaram yada Tasmin kale phalam gneyam nirvishankam vijottama. He is saying, Tasmin kale, I will interpret the second line first. This is a verse I am not 100% confident on. I will just give you what I think. Tasmin kale, in that kala, in that time, phalam gneyam. Phalam means result of this Argala. Gneyam means to be understood. Nirvishankam, without any doubts. Vijottama, oh great Brahmin. oh great, pious, learned man. In that time, the results of Argala are to be understood without any doubt. So he is talking about the timing of when the Argala works. And what is he saying about timing? The first line. Yatra rasau sthitah khetas tasya pakantaram yada. Yatra rasau sthitah khetas tasya pakantaram yada. Yada means whenever. And in the next verse he is saying tasmin kale, in that time. So those two will basically form the sentence. Yada means whenever, whichever Rashi the planet is occupying. The planet causing the Argala. Yatra rasau sthitah khetas tasya pakantaram yada. When the whichever Rashi the planet is occupying, when the Paka or Antaram comes, Paka Antaram can be interpreted as either yeah. Paka Antaram means you can interpret it as the Antardasha. When the Antardasha, in a particular Dasha, in any Dasha, when the Antardasha containing the planet causing Argala comes. So he is talking about which Dasha here? Is he talking about Vimshotri Dasha? No. But you could interpret it, you could basically extend it saying, oh, Vimshotri Dasha, when the planet's Antardasha comes, you can extend. But specifically he is saying in the Charadasha or in any Rashi Dasha. Because Charadasha is the Rashi Dasha he taught. And of course you can use Narayan Dasha, which is generalization of the Charadasha. So he is saying in the Rashi Dasha, whenever the Paka or Antardasha. So you could interpret it as maybe Paka Bhoga. When the Antardasha of the sign comes or the Bhoga of the Antardasha falls in that particular sign where the planet is.
Because it's not the planet's Antardasha, it's not the...
He's not saying it, but like I said, you could generalize it and interpret it that way also. But what he is specifically granting is when the Antardasha or when the Paka or the Antardasha are something associated with those. Of the sign containing the planet causing Argala comes, then the result is clear.
The sign, it's not the planet.
The sign. So that is what he is saying.
It's the Rashi Dasha.
Right. He is referring to Rashi Dasha, which gives the results of Argala. Tasmin kale phalam vyayam nirvishankam vijatam. Without any doubt, when the Antardasha comes, the results are given. Oh, great stage. So without any doubt, we can make predictions. If only we can compute that Rashi Dasha accurately. Argalam pratibandham cha kathamanghichaturthayoh vitriyanghayoscha mitho vipra chintayediti me matam. So he is saying Argalam pratibandham cha. When you see the Argala and pratibandham, katham anghichaturthayoh. Anghi means Anghi, not Anghi actually, I think it's a typo. Anghi means pada, the legs. So, Anghi Chaturthayo, out of 4 padas. So basically he is saying 4 quarters basically. He is giving a quarter system. So out of the 4 quarters, Tri Anghayoscha. Again the word Anghi also means 4. Another meaning of Anghi is because usually most animals have 4 legs, including us, if you count the hands as legs. So he is talking about 2, 3 or 4. Mitho means coming together. Mitha means coming together. Vipra chintaye diti me matam. So he is saying if 2, 3 or 4 come together, then only think about it. So here he is basically saying if you classify Argalas on a scale of 4, think of it as 2, 3, 4. So he is saying if there is only 1 out of 4 strength, basically he is saying in his opinion, this is me matam, my opinion is Chintayet means should consider. Iti means thus, my me matam means my opinion. If it is 2, 3 or 4 out of 4, then only consider it. That is my view. So he is saying if there is only one planet causing Argala, not a big deal, just ignore it.
But also you said it was cumulative, because you were interpreting it was cumulative of all the Argalas, the 2nd, 4th, 11th house.
Right. But the thing is, even when you do that cumulation, it is possible that certain houses have Argala only from one planet. May not have Argala by more than one planet. So he is saying if it is 2, 3 or 4 only, then you consider it. And also he is saying,
it's interesting. Also one more thing, he considered 5th and 9th.
Yeah.
Virodha, Argala and Virodha.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem to include that. You said secondary and...
He did not exclude it also.
Right.
So he did not even say it is secondary. He only added it. Oh, by the way.
Fifth also has.
Yeah.
Then he said, of course, third, he has more than 2 papagrahas.
Yeah.
Then instead of becoming Virodhargala, now it becomes
Instead of becoming Badha, he's not exactly using the word Virodhargala, he's just using it Badha.
Bahada.
And another word he used here is Pratibandham. So basically he's just calling it obstruction, period.
Obstruction goes away, now it becomes favorable.
Yeah. It just,
So
yeah,
five,
right.
five, yes, 2, 4, 11.
Right.
2, 4,
But the thing is,
Five.
despite so many houses being there, the thing is, you also have to consider the Badha. So if you say there is Argala by 3 planets, and let's say there is Virodhargala on those Argalas by 2 planets, you basically have a score of 1. So he's saying Argala Pratibandham cha. So when you consider Argala and Pratibandham, he's saying the strength should be 2, 3 or 4 out of 4. Then only you consider. So if there are 3 planets causing Argala and 2 causing Virodhargala or Pratibandham or Badha and Argala, he seems to be saying that it's not a big deal. It doesn't really mean much for the results of the house. On the other hand, if there are many planets causing Argala, many more planets causing Argala than Badha, and the count is greater by 2, he seems to be saying that definitely the results of the house are promoted by those planets when the Antardasha of the sign containing them comes.
Then how do you compute strength at that point? You might have an Antardasha of a house.
Yeah.
It is only one planet. Cumulatively, the whole Argala.
See, the thing is, if overall the Argala is stronger, then if, let's say there is 1 planet in the 2nd house, 1 in the 4th house, let's say 1 planet in the 2nd house, 1 in the 4th, 1 in the 11th, and no planets in the Bahasthana, then there are 3 planets causing Argala. It is Uttama, according to Parasara. And it will definitely give the result in one of the 3 Antardasha.
In one of 3.
Yeah, he's not saying which one.
Which one is
But if one of the signs has more planets, maybe that will dominate. He's not, those you have to only infer. He's not explicitly saying those. But what he granted is, one of those Antardashas is capable of giving the results of the house, the fullest results of that house. Okay? And especially when talking about the Badha, he did talk about strength also. If they are Nirbala, then they don't cause Badha. So, the strength of the planets also seems to be an important role. So, if there are 3 planets, 1 in 2nd, 1 in 4th, 1 in 11th, you could see who is stronger. And then that planet's Argala, the Argala caused by that planet may dominate over the Argalas caused by other planets. But the thing is, the lesson is, just because one planet is strong and causing Argala, it may not give the results of the Argala. There have to be other planets causing Argala, maybe from the same sign or from a different sign. If there are other planets who are also promoting that, then he will give the results. If I am promoting a project, even if I am strong, I have a lot of money, I may not be willing to basically make the project take off, give the money needed for the project and make it take off. Whereas, if there are other people who are also promoting it, maybe from different places, I am in Boston, maybe somebody from California, somebody from Singapore is promoting the project, then I will confidently go ahead and put my money in, something like that. Okay. Now, where are we? 11th sloka. Pade lagne madevapi nirabhasargala yada tada jatoti vikshyato bahu bhagyayuto bhavet. So what is he saying? Pade, in the Arudha Lagna. You could interpret it as Arudha Pada of any house. But in general, if it doesn't say specifically, we interpret it as Arudha Lagna, Arudha of the Pada of the Lagna. So, Pade means in the Arudha Lagna. See, this is interesting. Even before he talks about Lagna or houses, he is saying Arudha Lagna. So that is the most important. And it's not for Chandas. If he said Lagne Pade Made Vapi, still would have been fine. So it's not for Chandas. And with somebody like Parasara, you have to pay attention to all the details. The fact that he mentioned Pada in the beginning means it is the most important. Similarly, I will say, out of 2nd, 4th and 11th houses, he mentioned 4th first.
Right.
So 4th house is the guidance. Basically, he is giving the utmost importance to the 4th house rather than the 2nd house. So you have to draw all those when you are comparing various Argalas and strengths, etc. You can keep all these things at the back of your mind. Parasara does everything for a reason. And here he is saying Pade. So as far as the Maya is concerned, Arudhas are concerned, Argala is very crucial there. That is what he seems to be suggesting. Now, the exact meaning of this verse is Pade Lagne Made Vapi. If the Pada, Arudha Lagna, or lagna or mada. What is mada? Mada, one of the meanings is, it is one of the Shadripus also. One of the meanings of mada is yeah. Mada means basically going to any extreme to achieve something. That is one meaning of mada. The other meaning of mada is just achievement. Something that causes pride. That is another meaning of mada. And this is normally used to refer to the 10th house. Parashara uses various words to refer to a house. For example, Vyoma, he used the word Vyoma to refer to the 10th house. And here he used the word Made. Because if he said Dasime, it wouldn't have fit the Chandas. If he said Vyome, again it wouldn't have fit the Chandas.
So the whole thing is to make it Chandas.
Yeah, I mean, first few letters in the Anushtup, the 5th, 6th, 7th, those are the letters where certain matras have to be satisfied. Others can be anything, it doesn't matter. So when it comes to the 5th, 6th, 7th letter of every 8 letter pada, he has to pick the right word. Other places he can pick any word. As long as it has the sufficient number of letters, he is fine. It doesn't have to be Guru, Laghu, there's no math required. But in 5, 6, 7, the Guru, Laghu math is required. And here he is saying, where are we? Lakne, Pade, Lakne, Pade, Lakne. Yeah, Pade, Lakne, Made, Vapi. So Pade, Lakne, then he needs one Laghu, one Guru. Something that we say as Lala, short and long letters. Pade, Lakne, Lala, Lala. That is what he needs. So he used Made. He needed something like Lala. So he couldn't find any word, he used the word Mada. He keeps doing it all the time. He uses so many words. You have to understand the meaning of the word and then see, oh, he's talking about the 4th house. If he says simple words like Sukhasthana, you can understand. Vayam, Labham, you can understand. But sometimes he can use more complicated words. Anyway, the meaning is, if the Arudha Lagna, Ardha Lagna are Mada, are the 10th house, Vapi. Va means are. So if this or this or this, Vapi, Nirabhasargala yada. If on those houses have Nirabhasargala, if they have Nirabhasa, and Argala, that is Nirabhasa. What does Nirabhasa mean? Nirabhasa means something that's not fake, something that's genuine. So he is talking about the genuinity of the Argala. So if they have a genuine Argala, so basically probably what he means is without Badha. There is Badha, there is Argala, but it's not.
Basically strength of the Argala.
You could interpret it, but the exact meaning is, I will tell you the exact meaning, genuine, not fake. So if there is, now the thing is,
what is genuine?
Right, we can only speculate. One meaning is something that is not obstructed. If something is obstructed, it is like, hey, I will support your project. But the thing is, my wife is saying, no, don't put money in that project, it's a waste of money. Then it's not a genuine support, it's basically fake support. So that is how you can interpret genuine support as something that's not obstructed. There is a obstruction, then it's not a genuine support, it's only fake support. So that is one interpretation. The other interpretation is, you can interpret it as the planet, if the planet causing Argala is not against the agenda of the house. If the planet, let's say, if you are talking about the 7th house, and the planet causing Argala doesn't want this person to get married, it wants divorce, let us say, then the support that the planet is giving, is it really genuine? Maybe not. Maybe not.
It will be different.
Yeah, his agenda is different. So maybe that's not genuine. So by using the word Nirabhasa, maybe he is hinting that you can't just go by this formula. You have to also judge whether the planet supporting the matters of this house, it really supports it or it's a fake support, because it is that particular group of people. So those are the two possible meanings. Again, I leave it to you. You can experiment, but that is what it means. Pade lagne madevapi nirabhasargala yada tada jatoti vikyato bahu bhagyayuto bhavet. Then jataha, the person who is born then, he is ati vikhyataha, means yeah, very well known. Vikhyata, khyata means popular. Vikhyata means very popular. Ati vikhyata means extremely very well popular. Basically he is saying he will be famous. But he is using so many jeshnas, so many adjectives. So he is really saying, he really means it. If there is a strong Argala on the Lagna or Ardha Lagna at the 10th house, he becomes very popular. Not only popular, Bahu Bhagya Yuto Bhavet. Which means, Yuta means accompanied by or having. Bahubhagya Yuta means one who possesses many fortunes, great fortunes. So basically he's saying he'll be very fortunate and famous. So strong argalas on Lagna and Arudha Lagna on the 10th house are very auspicious. Yasya papa shubho vapi grahastishte subhargale. Yasya papa shubho vapi grahastishte subhargale. Tena drastekshidam lagnam travalyayopakalpyate. Okay. Yasya papa shubho vapi. Where papaha shubha vapi. Whether malefic or benefic, grahastishte. If the planet is sitting there, subhargale, in the auspicious Agadasthana, if a planet is sitting, whether it is auspicious or inauspicious. Tena Tena, I think there is some typing here. Drastekshidam or Drastekshidam Lagnam Pravalyaya Upakalpate. There is malefic or benefic planet sitting in the Argala. Trayana. By that, Drastekshidam. Some typo is there here. Because there are actually many other typos in this. I downloaded it from a particular site. We have the actual text, we can verify tomorrow. There is some typo, but each of them means affected. Ragnam Pravalyaya Upakalpate. So he is saying, he seems to be saying here that because he talked about the Argala and Pada, Lagna and Mada on the 10th house. Argala and the Lagna, Arudha Lagna and the 10th house he is talking about. So now he is saying, if those Argalas are caused, those auspicious Argalas that he talked about, which gives excellent results that he talked about, if they are caused by benefics or malefics, doesn't matter. Either benefics or malefics. If those auspicious Argalas are caused, if by those planets Lagna is aspected, Pravalyaya Upakalpate, then that increases the strength. So he is saying, if there is Argala and Lagna, Arudha Lagna or 10th house, and always, he mentioned 3, doesn't mean it's only those 3. Those are basically hints for you to basically generalize. Why is 10th house important? Because it is your achievement. It is what you accomplish in the world. Why is Arudha Lagna important? Because it's the overall image of you. And why is Lagna important? It is basically who you are. So those 3 are important. So similarly you can say 5th house, 9th house. You can look at various important houses or the padas of some important houses. And if there are Shubha Argalas on those, now he is using the word Shubha Argala for the first time. So he is again indicating another distinction called Shubha Argala, Papa Argala. An auspicious result giving support on a particular house, a solid support to a house. Argala so far only means a drudha, a solid support to the matters of a house. But it can be Shubha or Papa based on what that house stands for. He is talking about Lagna, Arudha Lagna, 10th house, all auspicious houses here. So Argala on those houses is a Shubha Argala. He also gave the result. He becomes very famous and very fortunate. So it's a Shubha Argala. On the other hand, if there are strong Argalas on the 8th house, it may make the person work hard. It is a Papa Argala. If there are strong Argalas on the 6th house, it will give a lot of opposition to the person. There are so many planets promoting the project of obstruct the guy or give him enemies so that he has to struggle. So that is not a Shubha Argala. So he is not saying that Shubha Argala and Papa Argala. Some people use the word Shubha Argala and Papa Argala and they derive it from the planets causing it. Irrespective of which house you are talking about. If there is an Argala by Jupiter or Venus, it is a Shubha Argala. If there is an Argala by Shani or Rahu, it is Papa Argala. That is how those people interpret. But here he is saying, if there is a malefic or benefic planet sitting and giving one of the auspicious Argalas I have mentioned, and if that planet also aspects Lagna, it increases the strength. So he is clearly hinting that Shubha Argala and Papa Argala have nothing to do with the planet. Nature of the planet. Nature of the planet. The inherent nature of the planet. Benefic or malefic planet can cause benefic Argala. Similarly, benefic or malefic planets can cause malefic Argala. It simply depends on, from the examples he gave above, Lagna, Pada and Mada, It simply depends on what they are causing Argala. If they are causing Argala on 10th house, it's a very good Argala. If they are causing Argala on the 12th house, it is a bad Argala, materially speaking. Period. So, he is saying that planets causing a good Argala on an important house, if they also happen to aspect the Lagna, it is very auspicious because it increases. Prabalyaya upakalpate. It basically, it serves the purpose of increasing the strength. So again, an important message here is when you are talking about the Argala caused by various houses. If the Argala causing planets are also affecting the Lagna, it is auspicious. Then when he said Lagna, can you also include Chandra Lagna? Perhaps. Chandra Lagna is your mind. So that is again not specifically granted by Parasara, but that is an intelligent deduction. So basically, planets aspecting Lagna, Arudha Lagna, and Moon, they are very important planets. Normally also we consider those planets to be important planets. If those planets are causing good Argala on any houses, it's even better. Okay? Now, Sargaleta Dhane Vipra Dhanadhanya Samanvitaha. What it means is, if the second house has Argala, which means a stronger Argala than Badha. If it is Argala Yuta, if it contains Argala, wo Brahmin, Dhanadhanya Samanvita, which means he is well endowed by wealth and food. Dhanya means various resources. They say, let's just interpret it as he is very rich. Let's say simple interpretation. Dhanadhanya Samanvita, Trutiye Sodaradinam Sukhamuktam Manichidhi. In the third house, if the third house has Argala, okay.
11 became male fixed.
Yeah, that is Parasara's definition. 3, 6 and bonus of 3, 6 and 11 are male fixed at that house. That is what Parasara taught. And there are some people who think, well, gains are a bad thing in Krita Yuga, but in Kali Yuga gains are good. So the planet of the house of gains is not a male fixed planet. So there are some people who say like that, but I would rather just follow Parasara. Why does he say? We don't fully understand. Maybe they are so motivated by gains that they are not really good for your Lagna. They make you do bad things. I don't know. We can speculate, but most things, there are certain things that you just take as axioms when Parasara teaches, and then based on it you proceed further. And as you become more and more learned and more intelligent, some of the axioms will start making sense to you. You can reduce to lower level axioms. But for now, let us make them our axioms.
I mean, talking about that, the main question is, what is the purpose of the human existence? That's the whole thing. So, I mean, why do you want to? Because something is beneficial. Very good. Because how can you say something is beneficial or male unless you know where are you going? What is the purpose of human existence? Yeah. And that question has to be answered first.
Yeah. Depends on the question he is asking.
Let's say from Parasara's point of view, he is knowledgeable enough so he understands what the ultimate gati is for the human.
Yeah.
Then everything becomes malefic or benefit from that perspective.
So let us leave all the philosophical discussions for now and accept that as an axiom. Now, coming back to the point here, so very clearly he is talking about functional nature. So the inherent nature of planets has no role so far, unless he says something later. So far it looks like it has no role. What has a role is functional nature of the planet. And now the thing is, if a functional benefic, let us say, if a functional benefic has Argala on the 8th house, the results of 8th house are, what are the results of 8th house? Kashta. But Parasara said, Shubhagraha Argalayam to Sokhyam Bohvidham Bhavet. He did not say Argala is fully working. He said the results of Argala will somehow give full comfort. So when the result itself is Kashta, what is the full Sukha there? Not giving the Kashta basically. Lessening the Kashta. That's an interpretation, but that's a logical interpretation. No, if you have a different interpretation, go ahead.
Maybe you're supposed to work hard until you go towards moksha.
Forget the philosophy. The results very clearly given are for certain house Argalas. Certain kinds of Argalas, which are Subha Argalas, he gave very auspicious results, the so-called auspicious results. But for certain houses, he said he did not use the word Sukha, he used the opposite, Kashta, which means hard work. For 8th house, for example, hard work.
But I think what it may be...
Now, now he is qualifying. He is not saying for a specific house. For all houses, he is qualifying. If an Argala is given by a functional benefic planet, then it gives all kinds of comfort.
Right, but in my opinion, the comfort is a psychological thing. It could be that...
But kashta, the word used is kashta for a particular house. You can't say kashta is sukha, psychologically.
For 8th house, it's kashta. But what I'm saying, my point of view is that even in executing the work of the 8th house, he feels comfort. So I'm saying...
Okay. You have a valid way to think. It is a valid way to think. But that is one interpretation. The other interpretation is, he is saying... Supagralargalayam tu Saukhyam Bahuvidam Bhave. So he is saying the sukhas that I mentioned will happen to the maximum. For malefic planets, they will happen only medium. So he is specifically referring to the sukhas. So for kashtas, you are supposed to infer by doing the inversion. So that is one interpretation. You can do your interpretation. You can say, if there is a Supagrahargala, he feels happy. So the results are given, but he does a lot of hard work, but he does it happily. That is one interpretation. The other interpretation would be, because the function, the planet's agenda is opposite the agenda of the 8th house, is basically eliminating the kashta. The kashta is not experienced so much. So that is another interpretation. So basically, because he is talking about Madhyam here, Sukham and Madhyam. So he is basically doing some kind of gradation. So if you want to use this as a gradation rather than quality, expressing the nature or quality, this is a gradation, then you have to basically say, benefic planets causing Argala on benefic houses, it is full. Malefic planets causing Argala on benefic houses, it is medium good results. Benefic planets causing Argala on a malefic house, then maybe medium bad results. And malefic planets causing Argala on malefic houses, fullest negative results, fullest kashta. That is one way to interpret. Okay, I'll leave it. Yeah, I will leave it to you. But the important thing is use the functional nature. That is the crucial thing. So you got it very right. Your interpretation is looking at the Mishra. That is the clue there. Looking at the word Mishrayam. Excellent. So by the way, just to emphasize again, I have only talked about benefics and malefics. What about neutrals? They are considered like benefics. He said even they give uttamam. They give very auspicious results. So they are almost like benefic planets. So only malefic planets are half results. Okay. Then where are we? 18. The last shloka, and then we can conclude. Lagna panchama bhagyeshu sargaleshu dvijottama jatasya jayate raja bhagyavan natra samshaya. So he is saying, if the lagna, panchama and bhagya, if the lagna, 5th house and 9th house all have argala, then wo great scholar, great Brahmin, the person who is born then, jatasya, the person who is born then, Jayate Raja, he is born as a king. Bhagyavan, very fortunate. Natra samsayaha. In this there is no doubt. So he is saying, if there are argalas on the lagna, on the 5th house and on the 9th house, if all of them have argala, then he becomes very fortunate. Now again, you can interpret Parashara, you can basically deduce. He is saying all the trines. What if it's only 2 trines? Maybe still good enough. Maybe not a king or very fortunate, but it is important. For example, if there is only Argala on Lagna and 5th house, maybe he is still very fortunate and maybe he is very knowledgeable. So like that, similarly, Argala on Lagna and another good house, Lagna and let us say 7th house, maybe he is very happy with respect to wife. So maybe along with a particular house, if there are Argalas on Lagna also caused by a planet, on Lagna as well as another house, maybe it increases the strength of the Argala. So Lagna has a very important role. Argala on Lagna as well as aspect on Lagna. If a planet is causing Argala on 7th house, let us say, and is also aspecting Lagna, then the Argala becomes even more powerful. So you can deduce a lot of things, but one thing that he is clearly saying is Argala on the trines is very auspicious. It makes the person very fortunate. Similarly, maybe if there is Argala on all the 4 quadrants, maybe it makes one a karma yogi, makes him one who engages in a lot of effort.
So again you can reduce all those things. Similarly, if there are strong argalas on all the dusthanas, let us say, maybe he is very unfortunate. Okay, so like that you can reduce other things. But this is what Parasara talked about argala. Okay,
It's basically the strength of, it adds strength or decreases strength in a certain house.
yeah,
more than
it basically adds rigidity to the result of a house. It makes the results just happen. So it closes the board. Okay, the words used were thiram and drudham. Whatever results the planet or the house, by the way, planets also, the later results are only for houses. He talked about if the 5th house has argala, if the 7th house has argala, like that. But in the beginning he also said argala on the planet.
Right.
So everything applies to the argala on the planets, even though he did not give specific examples. So if there is argala, if there is strong argala on, let us say, your sun,
That strengthens him a lot.
yeah, it basically makes sun give his results. There is support for sun's activities. Whatever sun's agenda is, based on his karakatva or based on his ownership or based on his occupancy, whatever his agenda is, the planets causing argala on sun will make him give the result. Okay. So that ends the Argaladhyayam, and before we do the Karakadhyayam, Padadhyayam, etc., or even the beginning Bhavadhyayas, the houses, Padas and Karakas, I will make up my mind this week and I will decide by before next Sunday, but we will probably go back to the ending chapters because they are standalone. They are standalone and also they will basically complement what we learned so far. They won't just supplement. We haven't learned that stuff. Here we are just refining what we already learned. We are already good at Argada, but we are refining that knowledge. So we will come back to this mode a little later. We will do the remedial measures, etc., because those are very important. Especially if somebody is born with a specific dosha in the chart, that can override everything. You may see great yogas, but he may be suffering like anything. So those are the things that you have to see in the beginning and suggest the remedies, so that the chart will, all the yogas in the chart will start to function. Otherwise, everything is blocked because of those really bad yogas. So we will do those things. Actually, Parasara did not even mention Kalasapta yoga. These are other yogas like Amavasya birth, Chaturdasi birth, Gandanta birth, Sankranti birth, etc. I have seen many examples where people were really born with those yogas and their life was basically stunted the whole life. Basically, it is almost as if somebody is just blocking your way. So doing the remedies for those is very, very important. So we will do that, and we will spend another 20-25 minutes looking at some examples. Okay? So from the next class, what we will do is, because I wanted to move on to a different topic, I wanted to finish the entire chapter on Argala, but what we will do from the next class is, we will spend less time, because I also want to continue doing the examples like we always used to do, because I think that is the best way to learn. At the same time, if we catch up on what Parasara taught, it will complete our learning. So both are important. So I want to spend exactly 1 hour on Parasara. So I'll probably read the verses for 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and if there are any examples, if examples are applicable to that particular chapter, we'll try to do some examples in the next 15 minutes. And then in the next hour, I will just take up one example chart like we always do. So today I wanted to finish the chapter on Argala because it's a quick chapter, and also this is like, I just wanted to do it, so I did it. So I want to move on to a different topic in the next class, so I did it. So we don't have much time to do any other examples, so we will leave it to the next class. For this class, what we will do is, we will just see some examples of Argala. The way we have learned today, how to apply Argala, the way that we have learned today, that we will do in the next 20 minutes. Okay? Do you have any specific chart that you want to study using this concept of Argala to see? So again, we are not saying this planet will give the result of this house blindly just because just that planet has Argala. We are looking for something that adds rigidity or solidity to the results of a particular house. Definitely, he is very fortunate. Definitely, he is going to have a lot of struggle. Definitely, he is going to have a lot of enemies. That kind of things we are trying to see. You understand? So, do you have any examples that you are interested in? What?
Because he became a king, president.
Yeah, he became a king.
Yeah. George W. Bush. And we in the previous class we said he is very fortunate.
Yeah. George Push. Close this. Okay. George W. Bush. George Bush Jr. 85. I hope this is the one. Doesn't matter. We'll just see the Rashi chart. So, why is it so slow suddenly? Yeah, something is wrong there. Yeah. I see. Okay. So, does he have any strong argala?
Lagna has got Mars.
First, Lagna. We'll see one of the things that Parashara said. Lagna, Mada and Pada. So, Lagna, does it have any strong argalas? Second house from Lagna. Does it have an argala? Mars. But is it Virodha argala by Sun? So, it's not really a big deal. The fifth house argala. Is there any planet in the fifth house?
Right.
Well, for him the counting would have been reversed. So he doesn't have argala.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So Ketu doesn't have argala. 11th house. No, again it's Rahu. So that actually counts as third house. But does he have third house malefic argala? The Vipreet argala?
Not because.
No, because he's only one planet.
Moon.
Pardon me?
I'm saying Rahu is only male.
No. What I am saying is Rahu will give the argala if he is in the third house. But if with more planets. Right? So that doesn't count. Now,
so 11th to be Rahu being 11th.
third house, if lot of malefics are there.
Because it's actually equivalent to third house. Rahu
Yeah.
is male.
For Rahu it is reversed, right?
But Ketu has a 6th house.
Right, but for Ketu, 9th house is the Argala house, 5th house is the Badha house. Badha Argala house, Argala Badha house. What about Jupiter Moon?
They're good.
The third house.
But
They are both benefics. So, 2 or more planets in third house. It doesn't mean Argala. Yeah, Shuklashtami. So, whether you use the Paksha, the fortnight itself, or you use the phase of the moon. Either way, he is a benefic planet. So, Moon and Jupiter are both benefic planets. So, just forget it. So, there aren't any significant Argalas on the Lagna, the true self. Okay? Now, what about the Pada? Arudha Lagna, where is it?
it's in the
Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Has Arudha Lagna, right?
Let's see the Argala.
Are there any Argalas on it?
Second.
11th.
The 11th house has Argala. Is it obstructed?
Nope. Not obstructed. Unobstructed Gajigeshwari. Argala.
Yeah, unobstructed Gajageshwari Argala. There is an unobstructed Gajageshwari Argala. So, excellent. So, there is the quality of the planets who are giving Argala also is important. It makes it either Abhasa or Nirabhasa. So, this is basically that Jupiter and Moon are Lagna Lord, the 5th Lord. Sorry, Lagna Lord and 9th Lord, having a yoga. From Arudha Lagna, they are the Arudha Lagna Lord and the 5th Lord from Arudha Lagna. They are very auspicious planets. So, pardon me?
Neutral, Jupiter is neutral, right?
Yes. We will talk about that later. We will talk about that later. Yeah.
Jupiter is 6th and 9th Lord.
Jupiter is 6th and 9th Lord. But basically, there is a yoga between Lagna Lord and 9th Lord, which is a Raj Yoga, apart from being Gajageshwari Yoga. Right? From Arudha Lagna also, they are the Lagna and 5th Lord, 1st and 5th Lord. They are very auspicious. So, there is a strong yoga by Jupiter and Moon, and they are causing Argala on Ketu. Sorry, on Arudha Lagna. So, 2, the count is 2. Is it obstructed?
It's not.
Are there any planets in the
They're not.
third house? No. So, it's not obstructed.
Why the software is not showing that Argala when I look in the software?
Pardon me? Uchu. Why doesn't it?
Jupiter and
Oh, it doesn't show? Oh, because it uses the Ketu reverse count. For Ketu, it does reverse. If there is Ketu in that house, you go backward. So, basically, Mars has Argala. These planets have Argala, but
right.
it does that way. You understand what I am saying?
Okay, yeah.
If a sign is occupied by Ketu, all counting is reversed. Even if you are looking at Jupiter Sargala, Moon Sargala, you count in reverse. That was the old teaching. That is what Sanjay ji taught. So that is what I programmed earlier. I will put this option also eventually. Parasara's option. So we will do that. But we are trying to apply what we learned today. So based on that, there is Argala by Jupiter and Moon. And Arul Lagna. Okay. What else?
10th house.
Is there a 4th house Argala? 10th house is not Argala, Badha. Now the thing is, does the 10th house Badha apply even if there are no planets in the 4th house? Do you just simply count all the planets in 2, 4, 11 and also in 3, 12 and 10? Is that what Parasara said?
Yes.
He said Kramat. So if there are planets in that 4th, then 10th house planets will obstruct. If there is Argala on the 2nd house, 12th house planets will obstruct. So if the word Kramat is the clue, it's respectively. It's not all these put in one group, all these put in one group. So you put this, balance, this, balance, this, balance,
Okay.
and then all the balances you put in one group. Okay?
So you didn't say the obstructions work independent of the effort. You didn't say that.
By saying that these are respectively,
Different.
he is implying that they are basically dependent on those. Otherwise, it would have just listed these and then been done. So it is very logical to deduce that this Mars's Badha on Arul Lagna is irrelevant.
Because there is no Argala from 4.
Yeah, if somebody is supporting it, he will obstruct it. Nobody is supporting it, so he doesn't do anything. And similarly, the 9th house planets, they don't do anything. Bottom line is 2nd, 4th and 5th are empty. So the only Argala on Arul Lagna is Jupiter and Moon. So there is a 2-planet Argala. So basically 2-planet Argala is, what is Parasara say? Madhyama.
Madhyama, medium.
So medium results are given by this 2-planet Argala.
Medium results, but also both with benefits. So
They are not benefits. Moon is a benefic, Jupiter is a neutral.
Neutral.
So when Jupiter is giving the results, Jupiter will give basically half results. Not half.
Neutral is
Actually,
also
neutral means
some
full.
amount.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You are right. So both Jupiter and Moon will give fullest results. Okay, that is good. So Arul Lagna has 2 or more planets Argala. Just one planet, like we said, is not sufficient. At least 2 must be there. So that is there with Arul Lagna. But Lagna doesn't qualify. Only Arul Lagna qualifies. Now what is the other one?
10th house.
Mada.
10th.
The 10th house of achievement, of pride. How is the 10th house? Are there any Argalas on it?
Strong 4th.
2nd house Argala from Rahu, is it there or not? No. For Rahu is reverse. 3rd house Argala from Malefic. Sun is a Malefic.
Right.
Does he give 3rd house Argala? No. Yadhika. More than 2 planets. More than 2 or 2 or more. You can interpret either way.
More than
Yadhika.
6, yeah.
So either way it is not the case here. 4th house Argala.
Very strong.
Extremely strong. So 10th house has the strongest Argala. More than image. That work that he does, that has the strongest Argala. He will do something big. That is what you can conclude.
And also Mercury, Venus.
Now, is it obstructed? Pardon me?
Mercury, Venus and Saturn, all friends.
Yeah, all friends. But we will come to the nature later. But first,
No
are there obstructions? Because if there are, then it will reduce. So there is 3 out of, basically there are 3 planets causing Argala. That's not all. Look at the 5th house.
But so is Mars.
Mars.
Very strong.
Again Argala, no Virodha Argala from Sagittarius. Or no obstruction, no Pratibandha from Sagittarius. So there are 4 planets causing Argala on the 10th house. Is it excellent or what?
That is it.
Excellent. So Arul Lagna has Argala from 2 planets. And Mada. So he said Pade Lagne Madeva. Either Pada or Lagna or Mada has strong Argalas. Then the person is very famous and very fortunate. So he is very famous and very fortunate. Fortunate. Pardon me?
For what he does in the society.
Yeah, he does big things. 10th house is what you do in the world. He does big things. He is destined to definitely do big things. When the results of those planets come. Charadasha, Narayan Dasha of those Antardashas comes. Cancer and Leo Antardashas are crucial for him. He will do big things then. When those results will come. Or Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, Moon Antardashas come. Many Antardashas basically. Now, who will give full results and who will give half results we have to see. Right? The full results we said Jupiter and Moon. Now what about Mars? Is he a benefic or malefic?
He is a lot of.
For Cancer he is a Yokarka.
Yeah.
So he is a benefic. He owns the 5th house and 10th house. 10th house ownership is neutral for a malefic planet and 5th house ownership is benefic. So benefic plus neutral. So he is basically benefic. So Mars is a benefic planet. So he will give the results fully. What about Mercury, Venus and Saturn?
Actually, the third lord and the 12th lord. So one is neutral.
Saturn is neutral for Cancer Lagna, 7th and 8th lord, and Mercury 3rd and 12th lord,
So it's male.
malefic. Venus 4th and 11th lord, malefic. So Mercury and Venus are malefic, whereas Saturn is
Neutral.
Saturn is neutral. So Saturn's Argala on 10th house, it will give fullest results, whereas Mercury and Venus will give only half results. If you are using inherent nature of planets, you would have actually reversed the
Venus would have said
results.
this.
But here, according to what Parasara taught, Mercury and Venus will give half results and Saturn will give fullest.
Mars.
Saturn and Mars, of course Jupiter and Moon also, they will give
Full.
fullest results. Okay, and let us see if we can correlate using any dasha.
Not it one.
2000.
Mm,
2001 time.
Yeah.
No, the process what
Yeah.
CPU you say.
Yeah. The thing is, what I see is when this happens sometimes when I try to close CC app, for example, it doesn't respond. There is a function. There is something called CC app.exe, which is the Norton antivirus. Basically, checks on the internet whether there are any updates. That thing somehow crashes. Not now. I have no network, but even when I have network, somehow that just hangs after a while. And I read on the internet that Sony VIO computers with Windows XP have some problem with that Norton antivirus thing. Not Norton or AS. Yeah, Norton. Maybe I should switch to McAfee. Anyway. Yeah, I don't really see it here, but I know for a fact it doesn't show up here as CPU percentage, but when I try to close it, then just refuses to close. What is the dasha that we were using for George W. Bush?
Seventh lord is
Seventh lord is in Lagna. So what dasha do we normally use? Disaptal Samadasha. Let us see when he became president, when he went to war with Iraq, when he is doing all this big karma.
2000 he became president, Jupiter.
Right. So let us see the dashas. In the Jupiter dasha, Jupiter, was it Jupiter Antardasha also? I believe so.
11.
2000 November, right? 2001 January.
Mercury, right? Jupiter.
What?
No.
2000.
420 is not.
What?
January, right?
No, but November first week of
2001 November, right? 2000 November were the elections. 2001 January 20 or 21, around that ball. Then he took the vote. So Jupiter Antardasha gave the position, the presidency. Does it make some sense? Because he has Argala on the Arudha Lagna. He has a strong Argala on the Arudha Lagna, and he is a functionally neutral planet who will give full results. Okay? But had Moon not been there, had Jupiter been alone, would he have given, in Jupiter Antardasha, would he have given the fullest results? Probably not. Only one planet. Then the Argala is very weak. At least there are two planets, so it is at least Majma. It is a stronger Argala. Parasara said if it is only one, just ignore. Now, when he went to war, etc., because going to war with a country is a huge deal. What was he running? Was it 2003 time frame? 2001 September was the attacks on US and New York City, the World Trade Center bombing. 2001 end he went to Afghanistan. 2002 beginning he started campaigning. 2002 end he basically went to United Nations. 2003 April, I believe, March end or April beginning. March end, I think. March, April 2003. That's when he decided to go to war with Iraq. Basically, the biggest karma of his presidency, if you may think so, because so many people lost their lives. For a good or bad cause, we don't know, but so many people lost their lives. It's a very big karma. So he did something really big during Saturn Antardasha.
And is related to 10th house.
Pardon me? Yeah. Does Saturn have Argala on the 10th house? Yeah, he has Argala on the 10th house. And another thing, if there is a Shubha Argala or Argala and a Shubhasthana by a planet, And if the planet is aspecting or occupying Lagna, then the results are even increased. That is what Parasara taught, right? So here, Mars, Saturn, Mercury and Venus have Argala on the 10th house. Out of them, Saturn and Mars will give the fullest results. And out of them, Saturn is also in Lagna. Right? So the results given by Mercury, Venus, Saturn are more important than those given by Mars. So
Aspect on that.
when the Saturn Antardasha came, this gentleman basically engaged in a really big karma. So the lesson here is exactly what is the nature of karma. All these things are tough to see from this. All we know is the results of that house are supported to the fullest. He will do something big. When the Argala on the 10th house manifests, he will do something big. When the Argala on the 9th house manifests, he has a big fortune, big break. When the Argala on the 8th house manifests, he has to work very hard. That's it. Work hard for a good cause or bad cause. Struggling with disease or just spending 20 hours a day lecturing and touring because he wants to increase knowledge in the world. We don't know. That we don't know. Okay? So that you see all other things, all the normal astrology that we have learned is for that purpose. But this purpose is to identify important periods when something is dridha, something is rigidly given, some result has to be given. There has to be a strong result given. Now, what?
2008 also Mercury.
Yeah.
Mercury has it.
Next year Mars will give his results, right?
Right.
Will Mars engage? Mars give what kind of results will Mars give?
We will definitely do something.
Definitely he is the 10th lord, having an Argala on the 10th house, and he is a benefic planet. So as far as the principle of Argala is concerned, he will give some big karma, just like Saturn gave. Maybe not to the level of Saturn, because Saturn is also in Lagna. Maybe not to the level of Saturn, but he will give some big karma. Okay. What we will do now is,
And we should only in the natal dashas, not in the Tithi Pravesha.
why not? Why not? Parasara never said this is only for natal charts.
This is only confirming existing letters, so
Right.
could see in the chart.
Because
Right.
the window is big, so we go to Tithi Pravesha, then it will be more.
That's
Close.
right. But the thing is, if you see a strong Argala on the 10th house in Tithi Pravesh chart, again, some rigid result, some strong result related to karma has to be given. But the thing is, magnitude may be less. Basically, all the magnitudes will basically be tempered down by the fact that this is just for this year. This is a small window basically. But definitely, Argalas are usable in Tithi Pravesh charts also, in my view. Parasara never said this is only for Janmidakra. So it is applicable. Okay.
Did Parasara even refer to this prayer?
No, he never did in the available electric
version.
Yeah. But the thing is, Tripravesh, there is no reason to basically say that it doesn't apply to Tripravesh. Also, there is no reason to say that it does not apply to the divisional chart. You could basically take various divisional charts and then apply this. For example, let us take the Navamsha. Because Navamsha is the protection that you enjoy from gods because of all the good that you have done in the past lives. Right? So, this is the chart of your blessings. So, let's just take the 9th house. Parasara said 1st house, 5th house, 9th house, etc. And also 9th house is Bhagyodaya, he said. If 9th house has strong Argala, a full Argala, then Bhagyodaya, basically fortune will rise. So, let us see if there is a good Argala on the 9th house. Right? Why are you laughing?
Yes, 10 to 7.
So how many Argalas and how many Virodha Argalas? Let me see if anybody gets it. All I want you to do is, don't take 4th house, 11th house, etc. Just 2nd house Argala, okay?
Okay.
Give me the count, final count. You take Argala's count, Badha count, and tell me the final count.
Just for the second house alone.
4.
Just for the 9th house.
9th house is 4.
On 9th house, 2nd house Argala.
Right, now 4 minus 1. Because Rahu.
Therefore, Rahu is
Exactly.
Good. That's what I wanted to see if you get Rahu there. So Rahu, strictly according to Parasara, Rahu is causing Virodha. So in other words, if you ever find Jupiter and Rahu together, and Jupiter is causing Argala in a house, he is only causing Virodha. He is Badha. He is not actually If whenever Jupiter and Rahu are together, or Sun and Rahu are together, or anybody and Rahu are together, if they are supporting it, he is only obstructing it, according to what Parasar taught. So here, Mars, Jupiter, Moon, Saturn, the 4 planets are causing Argala. Rahu is causing Pratibandha or Badha on the Argala. So,
Yeah.
because he is in the second house. Second house is Pratibandha sthana for Rahu and Ketu. Tamo grahascha yatayadmi, I think.
3.
Sorry, I'm just saying.
4 minus 1, 3.
So 4 minus 1 is 3. Still good. Still excellent. Right? So there is a... So what were you were saying something?
Because Rahu actually has a second house Argala, but it's on Kanya. Because it's reverse.
No.
Argala is reverse. You are right. There is no Argala on Cancer. But there is Badha on Cancer.
Because it's the second
He is in the second house. He causes Argala on the 12th house and causes Badha on the second house. I mean, when he is in the second house from a house, he causes Badha to that house. When he is in the 12th house from a house, he causes Argala on it. So Rahu is causing Argala on Kanya. He is causing Argala on Scorpio. But he is causing Pratibandha on Cancer. He is causing Pratibandha on Taurus. You are still confused?
Because I'm saying,
Okay.
when I'm counting from Rahu,
Let us not do that, okay? Let us not. We always counting from the planet or from the house. We are counting from the house. So let us continue that, okay? So if you count from the house, from Cancer, these planets are in the second house, they cause Argala. And Rahu is in the second house, he causes Badha. Because Rahu causes Argala on a house when he is in the 12th, 3rd and 10th from the house, right? What would have been normally Argala sthanas will become Badha sthanas for Rahu. What would have been normally Badha sthanas for other grahas would be Argala grahas, Argala sthanas for Rahu, okay? So Rahu is causing Badha on Cancer. He wants to cause Bhagyabhanga. But Mars, Jupiter, Moon and Saturn, they are not up to him. They are basically not with him. They are saying, no, we want to give fortune to this person. And also this is a Navamsha, even more important than Rashi. So in Navamsha, 9th house having such a strong Argala by 3 planets without any obstruction. Now, what are the other Argalas? Look at the 4th house, are there any Argalas? No planets. 5th house, no planets. 11th house, no planets. So, no other Argala. Only Argala is from Mars, Moon, Jupiter, Saturn. And Rahu will be vetoed down by them.
it's 4 of them.
So you could even say it's a 4 Argala. If you consider Rahu to be weak there, in the company of all those planets and in Leo, if you say that Rahu is weak, Parasara said Nirbala, Sankhya, it doesn't count. So you can even say that there is basically a 4 planet Argala. So one thing you can say, this guy is extremely fortunate. Okay, he is very fortunate. Now, which of these planets will give the fortune to the fullest and which will give medium? First Mars, benefic or malefic? Benefic. Even though he owns the 6th house also, he is Lagna Lord. Lagna Lord is always benefic.
Okay, so you don't even take that as
Yeah,
a problem.
in any case it doesn't matter. Both are full. So he gives full results. Jupiter, 2nd house neutral, 5th house. From Scorpio, he owns the 2nd house Sagittarius and 5th house Pisces. So he is benefic. Jupiter is benefic. Moon, 9th lord, benefic. Saturn, 3rd and 4th lord, malefic and neutral. So combined malefic. So he gives half results. The only guy who is going to give half results is, as far as fortune is concerned, is Saturn. But Jupiter, Moon and Mars, they will give fullest results. Okay? Now, during the Jupiter Dasha, Jupiter Radha Dasha, will fortune be with him? Will he get lot of fortune? Or will his fortune be broken? No. Jupiter is causing a very fine, unobstructed, not really obstructed Argala on the 9th house. So he will, and he is a functional benefit, so he will give excellent results. Okay? So Jupiter was very fortunate for him. Okay. Oops, what happened? I did something weird.
Even 2004 election,
Jupiter, Moon also.
Pardon me?
Yeah, Jupiter, Moon, Jupiter, Mars,
Jupiter, Moon.
Jupiter, Saturn, all those.
All those
Yeah. So he is basically running a good period right now, a fortunate period. But is Rahu good for his fortune?
Yeah, right.
Rahu is actually trying to obstruct it. Even though he is being vetoed down by all the big gang that he is with, he is actually obstructing. So if at all there is any minor chance of losing the fortune, it is during the Rahu period, 2003 September till 2004 October 24, just before the election.
Huh?
Yeah. So basically the year and a half, year before elections, is
Bad. It was.
not so good from the point of view of how fortunate he is. So there was some negative propaganda about him. When I use the word propaganda, I don't mean it negatively. Lot of negative things written about him in the media, and the popular opinion was slowly drifting away from him. So maybe that is why. But after that, after Rahu ended, he was all set. What is he going to run now? Which 2007, which is probably an important year for the world, he is going to run Mars Antardasya. Will he be fortunate then?
Yeah, he is.
Fully.
Mars is the Lagna Lord. Lagna Lord in the Rashi chart, Navamsha chart, having a yoga with other trine lords, 9th and 5th lords, friends. Mars is with Moon, 9th lord, and Jupiter, 5th lord. So he is with the other trine lords who are also his best buddies. And he is in the 10th house of Karma. And he is having a very strong Argala on fortune. So he will be very fortunate.
Parivartana with sun, right?
Pardon me?
Exchange with sun.
Yeah, exchange with sun. Yeah. He is exchanging results with sun. So actually that's a very good point. So that could actually mess up things. The fortune that Mars was supposed to give, sun may have given.
That's why he got election.
He got re-elected at that time. So maybe sun gave the results of Mars. Now Mars will give the results of sun. So not really. As far as fortune is concerned, he doesn't really show any great fortune. That's a very good point. I'm glad you pointed it out. Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? Do you want to see one more chart or close for today? 11:22. So, at least do you get a hang of how we apply this teachings of Parasara? So, this is basically to see a big gang that is forming in support of the matters of a particular house, who are hell bent on giving the results of that house. This is basically for that purpose. Argala is for that purpose. So, if there is Argala on any important house or pada, given by more planets, not with a lot of badha, not with a lot of obstruction, then that Argala will give its fullest results. Okay, and you see the functional nature of the planet in that particular chart to judge the grade to which the results are given. Okay, actually, before we conclude, are there any Argalas on the 8th house? Because 8th house is kashta, anxiety, tension, etc. Are there any Argalas that this guy has given by on the 8th house?
No second.
8th house Argalas. Anybody?
No second, no fourth.
Pardon me?
No, Rahu is reverse, so it's not.
No.
No.
Yeah.
It's not, doesn't have Argala.
Nothing. 2, 4, 11.
8th house has no Argala.
Oh.
It's fifth.
What about the Arudha of the 8th house? The Mrityapada or Kashtapada?
Eight.
A8. Look at the A8.
Ketu has Argala.
Who has Argala on A8?
So, yeah, Ketu does, as you said.
Ketu has Argala. Is it obstructed or unobstructed?
Unobstructed.
Ketu has unobstructed Argala.
But it's one.
It's one. It's according to Parasara, one planet Argala is
Weak.
Minimal.
weak, minimal, kanishtha. Little result, not even half result, maybe 1/4 result. So it gives some kashta. Okay, Ketu will give some kashta.
Has a quick question to one.
What?
Seshu has a question.
Yeah, I'll take it. Just 1 minute. Let me finish this. So some kashta is possible in Ketu's Antardasya. Does Ketu have Antardasya in this Dasha scheme? No.
No.
So who will give the result?
Rahu.
Rahu. So in the 1 year before the election, there can be some trouble, some tangible trouble for him. But again, it's not really big. It's basically minimal.
He has to work hard.
Yeah, he has to work hard. Now, I'll take your question.
In case of Parivartana,
Yeah,
right, and we were looking at Mars's role
yeah,
in determining whether it's going to give full effect or not.
yeah.
So do we actually take Sun and put it in that house as is and look at Sun as a benefit of male, constant benefit of male, or do we look at Mars?
That's a good question. The ideal thing to do is Mars will first behave as Mars, and then he will start behaving like Sun there.
Will behave initially as Mars is Mars.
As Mars, but when the Parivartana has been triggered, Mars will act as though he is Sun there.
When does Parivartana trigger?
Pardon me? That is a tough question to answer. So I have Then in the past, basically when the corresponding Pratyantardasha or Antardasha, if you are looking at Antardasha when the Pratyantardasha comes, or maybe if you are looking at Dasha when the correct Antardasha comes, so it's tough to know exactly when. But once the trigger has been pulled on the Parivartana, Mars will act as though he is Sun. So then your point is accurate. Mars, when he is acting as Sun there, he is basically the 10th Lord in the 10th house. So basically, he is a neutral planet. He is not a benefic planet like Mars in the case of Mars. But still it will give maximum results. So it doesn't matter.
We took a 6th house, right? Last time we analyzed for 6th house.
8th house, right?
8th house Argala.
8th house is Aquarius, not Sagittarius.
Yeah, we did 8th house and then we did the Arudha of the 8th house.
Oh.
We did both Arudha and the actual house.
Okay.
8th house is
Okay.
nothing.
Okay.
I mean, that A8 is in 6th house. So
Now the thing is, let us say, because you mentioned 6th house, let us see 6th house. 6th house we have already done. But what about A6? The tangible enemies. The tangible rise of enmity with other people. Are there any strong Argalas on the 8th house which are unobstructed?
4th house.
Who are causing Argala on A6?
4th Sun.
First, 2nd house Argala, none. 4th house Argala by Sun, it is unobstructed. So Sun is one Argala, Sun, remember. Then
11th.
Rahu, he is in the 11th house. I mean, if you count reverse, or if you count normally, he is in the 3rd house. But for Rahu, 3rd is the Argala sthana.
Argala.
So Sun, Rahu. What about Ketu in the 9th house? Is he causing Argala? Yes.
Yes.
It is equivalent to 5th for other planets.
Right.
So Ketu is causing Argala. Sun, Rahu, Ketu. And who else? And again, the Argala of Ketu is equivalent to the Argala of Mercury, Venus and Saturn. It is unobstructed. The Argala of Rahu is unobstructed. The Argala of Sun is unobstructed. So there are unobstructed, absolutely unobstructed Argalas by Sun, Rahu, Ketu, Mercury, Venus, Saturn. There are
Around the 9th house.
on the 9th house and also A6. So if we are focusing right now on A6, on enmities, there are 6 Argalas. Is that Uttama? I mean, is that fullest? It's actually more than fullest. It's 200%. It's more than what anybody would consider as maximum. It's basically more than maximum. So there is a 6 planet Argala on A6. So when any of these Antardashas come, especially which of these planets are really strong, I mean, which Argala is strong? Mercury, Venus and Saturn are together. Several planets. So you can consider that to be the strong, and also they are in Lagna. So you can consider that to be the strongest Argala. So when those Antardashas come, Venus, Saturn and Mercury, so during those periods, Venus and Saturn periods, he will get lot of enemies. But in general, is this a guy who has a lot of enemies? Yeah. He is a guy who has a lot of fortune, great fortune, but at the same time, lot of enemies. Okay. So if you count the Lagna, 5th house and 9th house Argalas, Parasara said Lagna, 5th and 9th having Argalas. If you count the overall count of Argalas on those is 8. Lagna has 0 Argalas, 5th house has 2 Argalas, because we counted Pada earlier, Arod Lagna. That is the same as 5th house. So Lagna, 5th and 9th together have 8 planets causing Argala, unobstructed Argala. So he has, first of all, he is a very fortunate guy. Second of all, he also has lot of enemies. So during 2001 June till 2003 September, he would have made lot of enemies, which is probably true. He has made a lot of enemies. And even in the Sun period, at the time, even though he won the election, Sun is having Argala on the A6. So having Argala on the 9th house, Sun will give fortune. We saw in the Navamsha, remember? 9th house he had Argala.
Right.
I mean, he was exchanging results with Mars and having Argala on 9th house. He has Argala on the 9th house even in the Rashi chart, unobstructed Argala. So Sun will give great fortune. So once the Sun period came, there is no problem in the fortune, either from the Rashi point of view or Navamsa point of view. He is very lucky during that time. But at the same time, he will get lot of enemies. So even after he won the elections, even in the 1 year following elections, he would have still had lot of enmity, lot of rivalry, lot of fear from the enemy. The word Parasara is not just enemy, Shatru Bhayam, fear from the enemy. That is what he attributes to the 6th house. So because of these Argalas on A6, there is a strong fear from the enemies even after he succeeds in elections. Okay, and again Mars doesn't have Argala on A6,
Mercury has.
but look at Mercury. He has Argala on A6 again. So in 2008, actually by the time will he be gone? No. In the last 1 year of his election. Even during that time he can basically make some new enemies, as though what the enemies he has are not sufficient. So that is a possibility. In 2008 there can be more fear from the enemies. But overall this is a guy who is very fortunate, who has strong enemies. Okay. Now the thing is, because of lack of time we could not do the Narayan Dasha, we just did the Saptadasama Dasha. But what I want you to do at home, I want to stop the class here. But what I want you to do is use the Narayan Dasha of the Rashi chart, and also use Parasara's Charadasha, which is also in the software, and see if you find any correlation. For example, when he got elected, he was running Pisces Dasha, and which Dasha was it? 2000 November, right? Actually 2000 December was when the results were announced, and 2001 January was when he became president. But the elections were held in Cancer period. Does Cancer make some sense?
All
As far as the 9th house and 10th house are concerned, he has Argala on them. So earlier we said Cancer, Leo and Virgo are the important signs for him, right? So I want you to basically go through it and then see if there is some correlation in the case of Narayan Dasha also. Okay. So with that thought, I will end for today, and in the next class we will continue Parasara. If we take up a chart, we will basically drag on, eat into the other hour. So I will do chart in the second half. So after 45 minutes, just stop me. I will do whatever I can do, whatever slokas I can do in the first 45 minutes, and then we will either take some examples if they are applicable, or just take some examples that you guys bring. It doesn't have to be on that chapter. It can be on anything, just like in the previous classes. Okay. So we will continue like that in the next class. And tomorrow is Guru Purnima, so it is a very good idea to pray to Vyasa. You can say Om Yam Vedavyasaya Namaha, or Om Yam Vyasadevaya Namaha, or any Guru mantra. You can just say Om Gurve Namaha or Om Gurubhyo Namaha. You can even pray to various rishis. If you like Parasara, for example, he gave us so much knowledge. So you can say Om Parasaraya Namaha. You can just say Om, the name, and then Namaha. Om Parasaraya Namaha. If you want to say Jaimini Maharshi, then it's not Jaiminaya, but it's Jaiminaye. Om Jaiminaye Namaha, or Om Jaimini Maharshaye Namaha. Just think of Jaimini Maharshi, who has given you so much knowledge, and just say Om Jaimini Maharshaye Namaha. It's not a mantra given anywhere, but it's basically an expression in Sanskrit of a thought that is good to have. Or Om Parasara Maharshaye Namaha, or Om Parasaraya Namaha. Okay. So you can do that, and also this is a good day to pray to Satyanarayana, like all Purnimas are. So actually we'll be having Satyanarayana Vratam at my house in the evening. Tomorrow. Actually Purnima comes late tonight, after midnight today, and it will go around midnight tomorrow. So we'll be doing tomorrow evening. We'll be starting that. Tentatively we are thinking of starting around 7:30, based on the sunset basically, a little before sunset, maybe half hour before the sunset. So it's around 7-8 time frame. It will take 3 hours or so. And the Purnima ends, I believe, I want to basically finish around the time Purnima ends. I think it ends around 11:30 or 11. I think around 11:20 or so it ends Purnima. So I want to finish it around that time. So it will probably get over around 11. When does Purnima end? 11:02. So I'll plan to end it by 11 o'clock. So whenever I start, basically I'll include as much material so that I can finish around 11. It's okay to actually go on after Purnima ends. If you do the Sankalpam and do most of the Vratam in Purnima, it is fine. But I want to end around that time when moon is really fullest. So all of you are most welcome to attend the Satyanarayana Vratam, and if you can't, you can, wherever you are, basically at that time, it will be around from 7 to 11. So during at 8 or 9, if you just take bath, sit down and meditate, it will basically, all our energies will add up. So you can do Om Namo Bhagavate Satyadevaya. That is a mantra for Satyanarayana, Lord Satyanarayana, given by Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Satyadevaya. So you can do that mantra maybe 108 times or whatever is convenient to you. So have a happy Guru Purnima, and I will see you next Sunday. Okay? That I will end for today. Om Shanti. शांति 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 सर्वं
Shakti.